when the government settled the sovereign bond in January 18th, there are a lot of calls that instead of settling that the bond with depleting reserves, why don't we start restructuring our debt and address the debt sustainability issue that already obvious and announced by the IMF that we are in our debt is not sustainable and we have lost market access and our resources are depleting. ISB holders of our credit was already forming a committee preparing to negotiate and restructure debt. This is, remember, even before we announced our debt standstill, our creditors were basically getting ready because it was already obvious that we were going into a debt crisis. The central bank, obviously realizing that central bank was no longer able to maintain the currency at 203 on the 8th of March, previous administration central bank, let the currency float without having any safeguards. The then government made from the IMF, first time realized this was going to crash and asked for a bailout package from the IMF somewhere back in March. This was even before I took over this office. Then obviously we saw the political unrest, the cabinet resigned, and there was a completely, there's almost no government. There was even end of the March, there was social unrest here, and there were large power cuts, 12 or 13 hour power cuts, and obviously the economy was going towards a crash landing. That was obvious to anyone. So what we could have done to prevent, the first priority at that time for both government and the central bank was to, how do we prevent a crash landing? If that happened, we would not be in this position today. So that was a priority, and that's where soon after the immediate policy package included sharp tightening of monetary policy to curtail the demand and minimize the monetary expansion and tighten monetary policy and reduce what we call the deficit financing by the central bank, and also announce a debt standstill which would prevent a hard default. If that happened, we would not be in a position even to restructure with our creditors. Then obviously with that we commenced the negotiation with the IMF, we commenced the negotiation with our creditors to restructure debt, and we have made some progress. So now we see instead of the crash landing we were expecting, we were able to have a soft landing, which means still we are landed at a lower point. That is, economy is going to contract, inflation was going to go above, close to 100% food inflation, and average inflation, headline inflation was beginning to 70%. But if we did not take those actions at that point, the outcome would have been much worse